Carlos, it's Jill. I've restored power to the subway.
Nice going. Next up is the traffic control system. It should be in the subway company's offices.
Right. I think I know the building.
Really? Way to go, partner. One step ahead.
Not your partner.
At first glance, the Resident Evil 3 remake might seem like it's going to be a retread of the Resident Evil 2 remake. Zombies, check. Police station, check. Giant unkillable bioweapon relentlessly pursuing you whose only purpose is to tear you in half with his bare hands, super check. But having now played the entire game, we're happy to report that while Resident Evil 3 doesn't quite hit the highs of its excellent predecessor, there are a few ways in which it actually outdoes it. Here are 7 ways this new Resi tops the Resident Evil 2 remake. I will keep them as spoiler-free as possible, and I swear not all of them are going to be about Carlos's hair. One of my favourite things in Capcom games is when the designers sneak in little Easter eggs, nods and references to other games, such as the sandwich shop in Dead Rising called Jill Sandwiches, or the Resident Evil costumes in Street Fighter V.
For those who I wish to protect, I will fight you!
Traditionally, the Resident Evil games don't go in for much of this, but all that has changed with Resident Evil 3, which is jam-packed with references to other Capcom games, at least during the early part of the game. I'm sure I missed a bunch, but even so, I caught references to Mega Man's Dr. Wily and Dr. Light on this poster, and Darkstalkers on this bar sign. Mega Man himself features prominently inside a Raccoon City toy store, and one of the more obscure Street Fighter characters, the British stick fighter Eagle, has apparently now moved to Raccoon City to open up a pet store. It's not intrusive and doesn't take you out of the game, but if you're willing to keep your eyes open and look around for this stuff, it's always a treat to come across a little insider reference put there by the developers for the superfans. Just don't get too into it and do what I did, spend ages staring at this poster of a clown, trying to figure out if it means something. Ugh, okay, that's enough of that. Resident Evil 2 and Resident Evil 3 take place roughly at the same time in the same part of the city, and as such you'd expect there to be some crossover. And as was the case with the original versions of both games, there is indeed crossover, but Resident Evil 3 has the benefit of being the later game, and therefore being able to give you a different perspective on events you already witnessed when you played Resident Evil 2.
Alright, you want me to keep out? I'll keep out.
Without going into spoilers for the story, there are several questions I had when playing Resident Evil 2 that finally get an answer in Resident Evil 3, and sections with Carlos in the RCPD building,
Area looks clear.
and Jill in the area of the city where Leon and Claire emerged from the underground parking lot cast new light on backstories, motivations, and in some cases, how some of the more memorable mangled bodies that serve as set dressing got there. Sadly, no word on if Nemesis and Mr. X actually ran into each other at any point. Now there's the mismatched buddy comedy I want to see. Okay, I said at the start that not all of these points were going to be about Carlos's hair, and this one isn't just about that, but I have to say a few words about Carlos because he is absolutely brilliant.
Here we go.
For a start, there's the hair, obviously, and the extreme Keanu Reeves-ishness of the voice.
My guys have converted some subway cars into a shelter. It's safe.
But then there's the fact that when you're playing as Carlos in several sections of the game, the vast majority of his incidental dialogue exists to just say what we're all thinking when we're playing Resident Evil games.
This is the police station. You sure? It looks like a cemetery to me.
From his confusion at the RCPD building's card suit-themed locks,
Now here's a weird f***ing door.
to his frustration at doors being barred and passageways blocked off,
Oh, for f***'s sake. Why is it blocked?
to the fact that a lot of the zombies you're shooting used to be policemen,
Kinda f***ed up shooting cops.
to the fact that the office is still set up for Leon's welcome party.
Yeah. Welcome, Leon. Bet you had a kick-ass first day.
Carlos just radiates amiability and is genuinely one of the most pleasant characters to spend time playing as in recent memory. Of course, you'll spend a lot more time playing as Jill, but that's okay because... Not to take anything away from Claire and Leon in Resident Evil 2, but I think Jill Valentine might now be the #1 most badass protagonist of a Resident Evil game.
Jill! Oh, thank God. Everything okay?
Yeah, I'm alive. I lost him.
It's not just about what she manages to survive, although that's a big part of it because, seriously.
that?
It's more about her attitude, which most often manifests as her just being absolutely furious at the Nemesis for having the temerity to try and kill her.
Rocket launcher? Really?
Make no mistake, the Nemesis is absolutely terrifying, which is why it's so great that Jill spends most of their encounters calling it a wimp and daring it to try and kill her, and then taunting it when it can't.
Alright, let's do this.
Jill is like this pretty much the whole way through, and honestly, it's the absolute best. Jill Valentine for all Resident Evils going forward, please. The original Resident Evil 3 had a dodge mechanic, but as we've covered before on this channel, it was unpredictable and bad and never really did what you wanted it to. I'm happy to report, however, that the dodge mechanic in Resident Evil 3 actually works, and once you've figured out the various timings involved, it's the best thing ever. It's a total revelation for a Resi game to be able to sprint towards a zombie, then duck or roll under its arms, and be sprinting away before they even realise what's happened. You can also escape from whole gangs of the shambling undead in a way that actually makes sense considering you're a human being with considerable combat training and a working brain, and they're mindless shambling corpses. Pull off a perfect dodge and you'll even get a brief window of slowed down time, letting you get off a few shots into the bargain for that extra cinematic flair. It also works a treat against the Nemesis, giving you a fighting chance against what is essentially 8 feet of muscle, tentacles, and overzealous dental work. And, like most things, it gets even better with Carlos, who has the regular selection of dodges and jukes, but is also able to just straight up falcon punch things when he's all out of other options. Man, Carlos rules. Oh, right, I promised. Okay, next point. One drawback of Resident Evil 3 is its length. It's comparable to one of the campaigns from Resident Evil 2, about 6 to 7 hours or so, depending on how much time you spend exploring. But there's just the one campaign, which might leave you feeling shortchanged. The payoff, however, is that while Resident Evil 2 definitely had peaks and troughs in terms of its pacing, Resident Evil 3 is absolutely balls-to-the-wall relentless action for almost its entire runtime. Sure, you can slow things down a bit yourself while you explore, but pretty much every goal you're trying to achieve throughout the game is urgent, life or death, frantic, and fast-paced, and the fact that you spend so much of the game being pursued by the Nemesis just adds to the sense of urgency that permeates the entire campaign.
I gotta get out. Quick.
For some, this might be a drawback, but I loved the constant drive to keep moving and keep pushing things forward. It also meant that during the rare moments when things do quiet down and chill out for a brief second, the contrast was all the more pronounced and I was able to savour it more. Then someone drops a zombie on your head and it's right back to panicking. Good times. Finally, a special mention for the sheer variety of weaponry that you're able to use to blow holes in things in Resident Evil 3. As we all know, the constant search for ammo is the real nemesis of any Resident Evil game, but the return of the ammo crafting system from Resident Evil 2 and the range of weapons that you have on offer mean that ammo is very much less of a worry in Resident Evil 3. Your Resident Evil staples, the pistol and the shotgun, both feel weighty and powerful and can be upgraded with new parts to pack more of a punch. Carlos also starts out with an assault rifle because, and I think I mentioned this before, he rules. The real star of the show is the grenade launcher, however, which can take 4 different kinds of ammunition: flame rounds, acid rounds, explosive rounds, and, not seen in Resident Evil 2, mine rounds, which stick to surfaces and then detonate, letting you make brutally effective zombie traps. Grenade ammo can also be crafted now thanks to the addition of several kinds of explosive that you can combine to create different types of ammo, not just acid rounds as was the case in Resident Evil 2. There are a few more awesome weapons, but I don't want to get into spoilers. That said, the sparking transformers and explosive barrels are another welcome touch. For us, I mean, not the zombies. So, those were 7 ways in which Resident Evil 3 manages to top the superlative Resident Evil 2. Are you excited for the game? Gonna give it a miss? Let us know your thoughts in the comments and be sure to like and subscribe for more Resident Evil from Outside Xbox. Thanks for watching.